Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, no, I'm not alone in saying that it's extremely unfortunate where we find ourselves today. President Trump has made clear that the OMB's sole mission, at least as he wishes it under his administration, is to cut programs, the very programs that so many Americans rely on in order to pay for another massive round of tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. In fact, during his address to Congress just last night, he doubled down on DOJ's wildly unpopular agenda of chaos and corruption, proudly listing the ways he has and will continue to devastate communities. And today we're asked to consider the next nominee preparing to further eliminate funding and jobs from our constituents. Mr. Bishop, I'd like for you to speak to the Californians that I represent for a minute here. I want them to hear how you'll justify ripping away important services and programs while raising the cost of everything. That's the impact that we're seeing from this administration. My constituents deserve to know exactly who to thank for these reckless cuts. You know, in the last 6 weeks, that's all the time that it's taken for President Trump and the Office of Management and Budget to wreak havoc across critical government programs. During your confirmation hearing in the Senate Homeland Security and Government Affairs Committee last week, I heard you insist multiple times that President Trump's firing of civil servants was not indiscriminate. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I continue to
so
hold
was
that
it
view.
not indiscriminate, or was it intentional when President Trump fired scientists fighting the bird flu outbreak while the cost of eggs continues to soar?
We'd have to look at the details of that, Senator. I'm not aware of the specific point you're making.
You're a smart man. You're a smart man. I know you've seen the details. Was it indiscriminate or intentional when President Trump fired military veterans operating the Veterans Crisis Line?
I'd have to look at the details of that, Senator. I don't, as I said, I'm
Was it not indiscriminate or was it intentional when President Trump fired thousands of seasonal employees at the National Park Service?
Yeah, I do not think that, and the dismissals that have occurred are indiscriminate.
I'm
Senator.
asking
That's
these questions because you seem to be applauding Elon Musk's efforts and this Doge strategy and chaos. So
I certainly am.
Was it not indiscriminate or was it intentional when President Trump fired thousands of nuclear weapons safety and security workers at the National Nuclear Security Administration?
We'd have to look into the details of that, Senator. I'd be glad to do that. Get back to
All this is just disappointing. And to make matters worse, you know, in so many areas of these indiscriminate firings, they've had to scramble to hire them back shortly after they realized their colossal error. And I could go on and on with additional examples. But let's be clear, this is not a one-time adjustment, as Mr. Bishop has characterized it. So here's actually a real question, and I'm interested in your response. What corrective measures has OMB taken to undo and limit indiscriminate firings of federal employees by an unelected bureaucrat?
Well, I don't think any of the premise of the question is accurate, Senator. But of course, OMB is not the agency within the department or within the Executive Office of the President that deals with personnel. That's the that's a different office. And and moreover, I'm not yet serving as deputy director and do not have management responsibility, nor am I aware of some of the details that you've made reference to. So I can't speak to the question about whether,
OMB's involvement, Russell Vought's involvement, the director now, there'll be evidence to the contrary of direct involvement in those personnel decisions. Maybe let me end with this, since I reference Director Vogt. When he was before this committee, one of the questions I asked is if he stood by his previous statements of a mission, a goal, an agenda to put federal employees into trauma. And there's example after example of exactly that happening given the activity of the last 6 weeks, and especially since Mr. Vogt was confirmed. Is that what you're signing up for, to help facilitate that, to help further that, putting federal employees into trauma?
You know, Senator, that comment in one of his writings that's been taken, or one of his speeches that's been taken out of context.
It's pretty clear and direct.
No, it's been used in a misleading way. I've seen what he means is that federal employees, that the American people need federal employees to perform. That federal employees themselves on surveys.
How do they perform when they're in trauma? When they've been traumatized by their employer?
Yeah, well, I think that again, the answer is that federal employees, there must be change in the workplace. Federal employees are making the comment that they see underperformers continuously among their colleagues, that they cannot see, that the processes will not allow to be removed. Those are federal employees. I've seen the way Russ Vogt works with the people at OMB, the career officials there. He has extraordinary respect for their skill, and he expects them to perform, and they do.
Yeah, don't mistake their trauma for respect. Thank you, Mr. Chair.